The rain hammered against my apartment windows like angry fists, each drop a reminder of how thin the glass was between me and the storm. I pressed my forehead against the cool pane, watching the street below transform into a river of darkness and neon reflections. My breath fogged the glass, obscuring the world outside, a world I'd been trying to keep at bay for months now. The double shift at the diner had left my feet throbbing, my lower back a constant ache that no amount of stretching could ease. I smelled like grease and desperation, the scent clinging to my uniform despite 3 washes. The fabric was worn thin at the elbows, nearly transparent in places. I couldn't afford a new one. I couldn't afford much of anything. My studio apartment was barely large enough to breathe in. The kitchenette consisted of a hot plate, a mini fridge that hummed like it was dying, and a sink that dripped no matter how tightly I turned the faucet. The sound had become a metronome for my insomnia. Drip, 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 counting down the seconds of my small, invisible life. I was 24, and exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. The thunder cracked so loudly I jumped, my heart lurching into my throat. Then I heard it. A sound that didn't belong to the storm. A knock, hesitant, almost apologetic. I wasn't expecting anyone. No one ever came here. Padding to the door in my threadbare socks, I peered through the peephole. The hallway light flickered, casting shadows that made everything look sinister. But what I saw made my breath catch for an entirely different reason. A man stood there, and even through the distorted fisheye lens, I could see he didn't belong in this building. His coat, black, expensive, the kind that probably cost more than 3 months of my rent, was soaked through, clinging to broad shoulders. Water dripped from dark hair that fell across his forehead, and even in the dim light, I could see the sharp angle of his jaw, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers or movie screens. But it was the child that made me unlock the door. A little boy, maybe 4 or 5, clutched the man's hand. His other arm wrapped around a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. The child's face was pale, his eyes wide with fear or exhaustion. Maybe both. He was shivering. "I'm sorry to bother you." The man's voice was low, controlled, with an accent I couldn't quite place. European, maybe. Each word seemed carefully chosen. "Our car broke down 2 blocks from here. My phone is dead. And my son..." He glanced down at the boy, and something in his expression shifted, softened in a way that seemed almost painful. "He needs to get warm and dry. I saw your light. I know it's late. I know this is..." "You should come in," I heard myself say. The words surprised me as much as they seemed to surprise him. His eyes, dark, so dark they were almost black, fixed on mine with an intensity that made my skin prickle. For a moment, neither of us moved. The hallway light flickered again, and in that strobe of darkness and light, I saw something flash across his face. Surprise? Relief? Something else entirely? "Thank you." He stepped inside, and suddenly my tiny apartment felt even smaller. The child moved like a shadow, silent and watchful. He pressed against his father's leg, those enormous eyes tracking my every movement. I noticed the boy's clothes were expensive too. Designer probably, but rumpled and damp. "I'm Sarah," I offered, closing the door. The click of the lock seemed too loud. "Dante." He didn't offer a last name. The boy remained silent. "This is Marco." The little one didn't acknowledge the introduction, just buried his face further into the rabbit's matted fur. "Let me get you some towels," I said, moving toward my bathroom. Really, just a corner with a curtain. "It's not much, but it's warm," Dante interrupted, his gaze sweeping the space. "It's enough." There was something about the way he looked at my apartment that made me self-conscious. Not judgment exactly, but assessment. Like he was cataloging every detail, every crack in the plaster, every water stain on the ceiling. When his eyes returned to me, I felt stripped bare, as if he could see through my tired uniform, to all the struggles I tried to hide. I handed him the only 2 towels I owned, both faded and thin. "The bathroom is there if you want to. We'll dry off here, if that's all right." His fingers brushed mine as he took the towels, and I felt a shock run up my arm. His hands were warm despite the rain, and I noticed his knuckles were scarred, the kind of marks that came from violence, not accidents. As he dried Marco's hair with gentle efficiency, I noticed other things. The way he stood with his back never fully turned to the door, how his eyes flicked to the window every few seconds. The phone that he pulled from an inner pocket and placed on my rickety coffee table, it wasn't dead at all. The screen glowed with missed notifications, dozens of them. "I thought your phone was dead," I said, before I could stop myself. His hand stilled on Marco's head. When he looked up, there was something dangerous in his expression, something that made my mouth go dry. Then it was gone, replaced by a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. My personal phone. Dead. This is... work. The explanation felt like a lie, but I didn't push. What did I know about this man? Nothing. What was I thinking, letting a stranger into my home? But Marco chose that moment to sneeze, a tiny sound that made his whole body shake, and my heart clenched. He was just a child. What else could I have done? "I can make tea," I offered. "It's not much, but..." "You apologize too much." Dante's voice cut through my rambling, not unkind, but firm. "For your generosity, for your home, for existing in your own space." His head tilted slightly, studying me with that unnerving intensity again. "Why?" The question knocked the air from my lungs. No one had ever asked me that. No one had ever noticed. I started, but he raised one hand. A gesture that should have been rude, but somehow commanded silence. "Tea would be wonderful. Thank you, Sarah." The way he said my name, with that slight roll of the R, made it sound like something precious. I busied myself with the hot plate, filling my battered kettle with tap water. My hands shook slightly as I pulled down 3 mismatched mugs. Behind me, I could hear Dante speaking softly to Marco in what sounded like Italian. The boy responded in the same language, his voice barely above a whisper. The kettle began to hiss, and I focused on that sound instead of the awareness prickling along my spine, the feeling of being watched. When I finally turned with the mugs, Dante was seated on my second-hand couch, Marco curled against his side. The boy had finally released the rabbit, which lay abandoned on the cushion beside them, but Dante wasn't looking at his son. He was looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. Hunger, maybe, or recognition, as if he'd been searching for something and just found it. "You live alone," he said. Not a question. "Yes." I handed him a mug, then knelt to offer one to Marco. The child's fingers were still cold when they brushed mine. "It's just me. No family?" The question felt invasive, but his tone was gentle, almost concerned. I found myself answering anyway. "Not anymore. My parents passed away 2 years ago. Car accident." The words still felt like gravel in my throat. "I have a brother, but we're not close." Dante's jaw tightened. "I'm sorry." "It's fine. I'm fine." Another lie, but a familiar one. "No," he said quietly. "You're not." The certainty in his voice should have angered me. Instead, I felt tears prick the corners of my eyes. I blinked them away rapidly, turning to retrieve my own mug. "Marco's mother?" I asked, desperate to shift the focus away from myself. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Dead." The single word was flat, final. 3 years ago. "I'm so sorry." I looked at Marco, who had gone very still. "That must be..." "He doesn't remember her well," Dante interrupted, his hand moving to stroke the boy's damp hair. The gesture was tender, protective. "Sometimes I think that's worse." We sat in silence for a while, the only sounds the rain against the windows and the rhythmic drip of my sink. Marco's eyes began to droop, his small body relaxing against his father's side. Dante's expression softened as he looked down at him, and for a moment, he seemed almost vulnerable. "You're good with him," I observed. "He's everything." The words were simple, but the weight behind them was enormous. "I would do anything for him, anything." His eyes lifted to mine, and there was something almost frightening in their depths. "Do you understand? Anything?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I truly understood the intensity of what he was conveying. "You can stay the night," I heard myself offer. "The couch pulls out. It's not comfortable, but it's dry and warm, and you're apologizing again." That almost smile returned. "We accept. Thank you." As I pulled spare blankets from my tiny closet, threadbare things that had belonged to my mother, I felt his gaze on me again. Constant, unwavering. It should have made me uncomfortable. Instead, it made me feel seen in a way I hadn't been in years. I showed him how the couch converted into a bed, acutely aware of how close we were in the confined space. He smelled like rain and something else. Expensive cologne, cedar and something darker, more intoxicating. When I reached across to tuck in a corner of the sheet, my arm brushed his chest, and I felt the solidity of him, the coiled strength beneath the expensive clothes. Sarah. My name again, softer this time. I looked up to find his face inches from mine. You're a kind woman. Too kind, perhaps, for this world. Don't. His hand rose, and for a moment I thought he might touch my face. Instead, he let it fall back to his side. Don't diminish yourself, not to me. My heart was racing, and I didn't understand why. This was just a stranger, just a man seeking shelter from the storm. Yet something about him felt monumental, like standing at the edge of a cliff in the dark, unable to see the drop, but feeling it nonetheless. I helped him settle Marco on the makeshift bed, the boy already half asleep, clutching his rabbit once more. Then I retreated to my own corner of the studio, separated from them by nothing more than a few feet and a bookshelf that didn't quite reach the ceiling. As I lay in my own bed, listening to the sounds of their breathing settling into the rhythm of sleep, my phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from my manager at the diner. Can you cover the morning shift? Jenny called in sick. Of course she did. I typed back a quick confirmation, already dreading the exhaustion that would come with only a few hours of sleep. I was just setting the phone down when I heard it. A voice, low and speaking rapid Italian. Dante. I held my breath, listening. He wasn't talking to Marco. He was on the phone, his tone sharp, commanding. Though I couldn't understand the words, I understood the authority in them. This was a man used to giving orders, used to being obeyed. My stomach tightened with unease. Then silence, the kind that pressed against my eardrums. Sarah. His voice carried across the darkness. Are you awake? I should have pretended to sleep. Instead, I answered, yes. Come here. It wasn't a request. Every instinct screamed at me to stay in my bed, to maintain the distance between us, but my body moved anyway, drawn by something I couldn't name. I found him sitting up on the couch, Marco asleep beside him. The dim light from the street below cast shadows across Dante's face, making him look like something carved from marble, beautiful and hard. Sit with me, he said. I perched on the edge of the coffee table, facing him. Is something wrong? Yes. His eyes found mine in the darkness, and no. I need to tell you something, Sarah, before tomorrow comes and changes everything. My pulse quickened. What do you mean? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. The car didn't break down. I lied. The admission hung between us like a blade. Then why? Because I saw you. His voice was barely above a whisper, but it wrapped around me like smoke. 3 weeks ago, you were leaving that diner where you work. You dropped your bag, and everything spilled out onto the sidewalk. You looked so pathetic, I supplied bitterly. Alone. The word hit me like a fist. You looked alone in a way that I understood. And I couldn't stop thinking about you. This couldn't be real. Men like him, beautiful, powerful, clearly wealthy, didn't notice women like me. I don't understand, I whispered. Neither do I. His hand reached out, and this time he did touch me, fingers tracing the line of my jaw with devastating gentleness. But I needed to see you again, to know if what I felt was real or just... He trailed off, his thumb brushing across my lower lip. I created a reason. The rain, the late hour, a sick child. All of it designed to bring me to your door. Marco isn't sick. The realization felt like ice water. He's perfectly healthy, and probably confused about why his father dragged him out in a storm to knock on a stranger's door. A muscle ticked in his jaw. I told you I would do anything for him. I didn't mention that I would do anything for other things I want as well. I should have been angry, terrified. Instead, I felt my breath catch as his hand curved around the back of my neck, pulling me closer. You should tell me to leave, he murmured, his lips inches from mine. You should be afraid of me, Sarah. I'm not a good man. I don't believe you. His laugh was dark, without humor. Then you're a fool. Maybe. My hands found his shoulders, feeling the tension coiled there. But you're still here. You could have left while I slept. I told you. I can't stop thinking about you. His forehead pressed against mine, and I felt the shudder that ran through him. 3 weeks of watching, waiting, trying to convince myself to stay away. And now I'm here, in your home. And all I want to do is... A phone buzzed. Not mine. His work phone, vibrating against the coffee table with violent insistence. Dante pulled back, and the loss of his warmth felt like abandonment. He grabbed the phone, his expression shifting into something cold and dangerous as he read the screen. Fuck. The word was vicious. He stood abruptly, running a hand through his hair. Then he looked down at me, and I saw conflict warring in his eyes. I have to go. Now. It's 3 a.m. I know. He was already moving, scooping up a still sleeping Marco with practiced ease. The boy barely stirred, his rabbit clutched tight. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm so fucking sorry. For what? I stood, following him to the door, my heart hammering. Dante, what's going on? He paused, Marco cradled against his chest and turned back to me. In the darkness of my apartment, he looked almost feral, desperate. Everything I told you tonight was true, he said. Remember that. When you learn who I really am, remember that this... He gestured between us. This was real. Then he kissed me. Hard, possessive, a claiming that left me breathless and aching. When he pulled away, I tasted rain on my lips. Lock the door behind me, he commanded. And don't open it for anyone. Do you understand? Anyone. You're scaring me. Good. He stepped into the hallway, Marco still asleep in his arms. Fear will keep you safe. I'll send someone to watch the building. But don't leave until I contact you. Promise me, Sarah. I don't... Promise me. The intensity of his demand shocked me into compliance. I promise. He nodded once, then disappeared down the hallway, moving with a speed and silence that seemed impossible for someone carrying a child. I closed the door, locked it, and pressed my back against the wood, my legs suddenly unable to support me. My lips still tingled from his kiss. My apartment smelled like cedar and rain, and something dangerous that I couldn't name. On the coffee table, forgotten in his haste, lay his work phone. It was still unlocked, the screen glowing with a message in Italian. I shouldn't look. I knew I shouldn't. But my hand reached for it anyway, and I read the words that would change everything. Dante, your location has been compromised. Leo Marchetti knows about the girl. He's sending men now. Get out. Below that, a second message. How could you be so careless? She's a liability now. You know what has to be done. My hands shook so violently that I almost dropped the phone. Then I saw the background image, Dante in a tailored suit, surrounded by men in expensive clothes, all of them armed. And beneath the photo, a news article screenshot, with a headline that made my blood turn to ice. Dante Caruso, the youngest Don in New York Mafia. History tightens grip on Eastern Seaboard. The phone slipped from my fingers, clattering on the floor. Outside my window, I heard the screech of tires, voices shouting in Italian, and then the distinctive crack of gunfire. I had let a mafia boss into my home. And now, somehow, I was part of his world. The gunfire stopped as abruptly as it started, leaving behind a silence that felt alive, breathing. I stood frozen in the center of my apartment, every muscle locked, my mind struggling to process what I'd just read, what I'd just heard. Dante Caruso, mafia boss, the man whose lips had just branded mine. My phone buzzed, making me jump so hard I nearly screamed. Unknown number. My finger hovered over the decline button, but something made me answer. Sarah. His voice, rough and urgent. Listen to me very carefully. You're going to pack a bag. One bag. Clothes for 3 days, nothing more. You have 5 minutes. What? 4 minutes and 50 seconds now. There are men coming for you. Not mine. Do you understand what that means? I couldn't breathe. You lied to me. A pause, heavy with something I couldn't identify. Yes. About many things. But not about wanting you. Never about that. His voice hardened. Pack. Now. My men will be at your door in 4 minutes. How do I know they're yours? How do I know? Because if they weren't mine, you'd already be dead. The brutal honesty of it sliced through my panic. The code word is rabbit, like Marco's toy. They'll say it, and you'll go with them. Don't fight. Don't run. Just go. Where are you? Cleaning up the mess I made by being careless. Something that sounded like regret bled through his words. I should have stayed away from you, should have been stronger, but I'm not strong where you're concerned, Sarah. I'm discovering that now. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my reflection ghost-like in its dark screen. Then I moved, operating on autopsy, shoving clothes into my worn duffel bag. Underwear, jeans, shirts. I didn't even look at what I was grabbing. My hands trembled so badly I could barely zip the bag. 3 minutes had passed when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, purposeful, multiple sets. The knock came sharp and efficient. Rabbit, a deep voice said through the door. We're here for the rabbit. I opened the door to find 3 men in dark suits, all of them built like walls, all of them wearing expressions of cold professionalism. The one in front had a scar bisecting his left eyebrow and eyes that assessed me like I was a problem to be solved. Miss Fletcher. Not a question. I'm Antonio. We need to leave now. Where are you taking me? Somewhere safe. He reached for my bag, and I pulled it back instinctively. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. We can do this easy, or we can do this fast. Boss prefers easy, but he'll accept fast if necessary. The casual mention of Dante as boss made this nightmare crystallize into reality. I handed over the bag. They surrounded me as we moved through the hallway, down the stairs. The elevator was apparently not an option. One in front, one on each side, moving in synchronized precision that spoke of military training. When we reached the ground floor, Antonio held up a fist, and everyone froze. He spoke into a phone in rapid Italian, listened, then nodded. Clear. 30 seconds to the car. The car was a black SUV with tinted windows, idling at the curb with its engine running. The back door opened before we reached it, and I was guided inside with a hand on my head, just like I'd seen in movies. The leather seats were heated, expensive. The interior smelled like gun oil and cologne. Antonio slid in beside me, while the other 2 took the front seats. The doors locked with an ominous click, and we pulled away from my building, my life, with smooth efficiency. Phone, Antonio said, holding out his hand. What? Your phone. Give it to me. No, You need to disappear, Miss Fletcher. Your phone is a tracking device. It stays here. When I hesitated, his voice softened slightly. You'll get a new one. Untraceable. Boss's orders. I handed it over, feeling like I was surrendering my last connection to normalcy. Antonio powered it down, removed the SIM card with practiced efficiency, and tucked both into his jacket pocket. We drove in silence through streets I recognized, then ones I didn't. The city gave way to highways, then to tree-lined roads that wound through darkness. I had no idea where we were going. No idea what waited for me at the end of this journey. Is Marco safe? The question escaped before I could stop it. Antonio's expression softened fractionally. The boy is always safe. Boss makes certain of that. And Dante? The Don, Antonio corrected, emphasis on the title, is handling the situation. The shooting was necessary. His tone indicated the subject was closed. I pressed my forehead against the cool window, watching my reflection merge with the darkness outside. How had this happened? 24 hours ago, my biggest worry was making rent. Now I was fleeing my home in the custody of armed men, running from enemies I didn't know existed, all because I'd shown kindness to a man who'd manipulated his way into my apartment. Except it hadn't felt like manipulation when he kissed me. It had felt like revelation. We're here, the driver announced. Here was a mansion. No other word for it. Iron gates swung open automatically as we approached, revealing a long driveway flanked by manicured lawns and mature trees. The house itself was massive, 3 stories of stone and glass and old money, lit from within like a jewel box. Antonio helped me from the car with unexpected courtesy. "This way, Miss Fletcher." The front door opened before we reached it, held by a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair, pulled back in an efficient bun. Her eyes swept over me, my cheap clothes, my scuffed shoes, my obvious terror, and her expression softened. "Poor child," she murmured in accented English. "Come, you must be exhausted." She introduced herself as Rosa, the housekeeper, and led me through rooms that belonged in magazines. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that was probably worth more than I'd earn in 10 lifetimes. My duffel bag looked obscene in these surroundings, a tattered reminder of everything I was and wasn't. The bedroom she showed me to was larger than my entire apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, dressed in linens that probably had a thread count I couldn't comprehend. French doors opened onto a balcony overlooking gardens that disappeared into darkness. "You're safe here," Rosa said, setting my bag on a bench at the foot of the bed. "The Don, he protects what's his." "I'm not," I started, but she silenced me with a look. "You're here, in his home, under his protection." She moved to the bathroom, and I heard water running. "That makes you his, whether you accept it yet or not." When she left, I stood in the center of that impossible room, lost. The bath she'd drawn smelled like lavender, and something exotic I couldn't name. My reflection in the mirror showed a stranger, pale, wide-eyed, trembling. I stripped mechanically and sank into water so hot it bordered on painful. The heat unknotted muscles I hadn't realized were clenched, but it did nothing for the chaos in my mind. Dante Caruso, Mafia Don, a man who commanded violence with phone calls, who moved through the world surrounded by armed guards, who had watched me for 3 weeks before orchestrating our meeting. A man who kissed me like I was oxygen and he was drowning. I don't know how long I stayed in that tub, but the water had gone lukewarm when I heard the door to the bedroom open. My heart stopped. Then his voice, rough and weary. "Sarah." I should have told him to leave, should have demanded answers, explanations, apologies. Instead, I grabbed the plush robe hanging on the bathroom door and stepped out to face him. He stood in the bedroom doorway, still in the clothes from earlier, now rumpled and bearing dark stains I didn't want to identify. His face was harder than I remembered, carved from something unforgiving. But his eyes, those dark, fathomless eyes, held the same hunger I'd seen in my apartment. "You came," he said, as if there'd been doubt. "Your men didn't give me much choice." "There's always a choice." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The click of the lock felt prophetic. "You could have run, screamed, called the police. Would that have stopped you?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "No, the honesty should have terrified me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my belly." "Why am I here, Dante?" "Because you're in danger." He moved closer, each step deliberate. "Because Leo Marchetti, a rival who would very much like to see me dead, now knows you exist. Knows I came to you. Knows I was careless." He stopped an arm's length away. "In my world, that makes you a target. Then let me go. Forget you ever saw me. I told you." His hand rose, cupping my face with devastating gentleness. "I can't stop thinking about you, can't stop wanting you. And now that I've touched you, tasted you, had you in my home." His thumb traced my lower lip, his gaze following the movement. "Now you're mine to protect, mine to keep safe. Mine." The possessiveness in that last word should have sent me running. Instead, I leaned into his touch, my body betraying every rational thought screaming in my head. "I don't even know you," I whispered. "Yes, you do." His forehead pressed against mine, and I felt the shudder run through him. "You know the parts that matter. Everything else. The violence, the power, the empire I built, that's just armor. But you, Sarah, you see underneath. I see a liar. Yes. No denial, no justification. I lied to get close to you, manipulated circumstances, used my son as an excuse." His jaw clenched. "And I'd do it again. I'd do worse. Do you understand? For you, I'd become the monster they all think I am." His confession hung between us like a blade, sharp and dangerous. I should have pushed him away, demanded he take me home, insisted this madness end. Instead, my fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt, holding him close, even as my mind screamed warnings. Why me? The question emerged barely above a whisper. You could have anyone in your world, who understand. I don't want women who belong in my world. His hands framed my face, tilting it up to meet his gaze. I want the woman who opened her door in the middle of a storm to a stranger and his child. The woman who gave us her only towels, offered her only tea, apologized for having nothing when she was offering everything. His voice dropped, rough with emotion. I want the woman who works double shifts and still smiles at customers who don't deserve her kindness, who's been invisible her whole life and somehow shines brighter than anyone I've ever known. Tears burned behind my eyes. No one had ever seen me like this. No one had ever looked past the uniform, the exhaustion, the small, invisible life I'd been living. I'm scared, I admitted. Good. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, achingly tender. Fear means you're smart. But know this, Sarah, I will never let anything hurt you. Not Leo, not his men, not anyone. You're under my protection now, and in my world that's sacred. Even from you? The question made him freeze, then slowly he released me, stepping back. The loss of his warmth felt like winter. Especially from me, his expression shuddered, that cold mask sliding back into place. Rosa will bring you breakfast in the morning. Antonio will be outside your door if you need anything. Rest. We'll talk more when you've had time to process. He turned toward the door, and panic seized me. Despite everything, the lies, the danger, the impossibility of this situation, I didn't want him to leave. Dante, wait. He paused, hand on the doorknob, but didn't turn around. Where's Marco? His shoulders relaxed slightly, asleep in his room, down the hall. His nanny is with him. A pause. Would you like to see him? Make sure he's all right? I nodded, then realized he couldn't see me. Please. Yes. He led me through hallways lined with artwork and family photographs, generations of Carusos staring down with expressions ranging from stern to cruel. Dante's face appeared in several of the more recent photos, always serious, always separate somehow from the others around him. Marco's room was a child's paradise, walls painted with murals of forests and castles, shelves overflowing with toys and books, a bed shaped like a racing car. And in that bed, clutching his beloved rabbit, was the little boy who'd unknowingly been part of his father's manipulation. The nanny, a kind-faced woman in her 40s, looked up from her book and immediately stood, recognition flickering across her features as she saw me. Miss Fletcher, she murmured, her accent similar to Rosa's. The Don said you might visit, had he? When had he found time to inform his staff about me? I approached the bed slowly, looking down at Marco's sleeping face. In rest, he looked peaceful, innocent. No shadows of the violence that surrounded his life, no awareness of the danger his father navigated daily. He asked about you, Dante said quietly from behind me. Before bed. Wanted to know if the nice lady was okay, if we'd thanked you properly for helping us. The knife of guilt twisted deeper. This child, at least, had been genuine in his need for shelter. Whatever game Dante had been playing, Marco had been innocent. He's beautiful, I whispered. He's everything. Dante moved to the bedside, adjusting the blanket with a father's automatic care. His mother died giving birth to him. Complications, they said, could have been prevented if we'd been in a better hospital, if I'd been less arrogant about using our family doctors. His jaw clenched. I was 21, stupid, thought I was invincible. Thought my name and money could protect everyone I loved. You were just a kid yourself. I was the heir to an empire. He looked at me, and the pain in his eyes was raw, unguarded. There's no room for childhood in this life, Sarah. I became the Dawn at 22, the youngest in our organization's history, and every day since, I've made choices that ensure Marco never pays for my mistakes again. I understood then, with sudden clarity, why he'd lied to get close to me. In his world, nothing was simple. Every connection was a potential weakness, every relationship a liability. Trust was currency more valuable than money, and far more dangerous to spend. "You should go back to your room," he said, the walls rebuilding around him. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be difficult." But I didn't move. Instead, I reached out, my fingers finding his in the dim light of Marco's room. His hand engulfed mine, warm and solid and scarred from violence I couldn't imagine. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "Not tonight." Something flickered in his expression. Hope, maybe. Or hunger. "Sarah." "Just tonight," I interrupted. "Just don't make me be alone tonight, please." The please broke something in him. I saw it happen. Watched the careful control fracture. He pulled me closer, his free hand sliding into my hair, tilting my face up to his. "If I stay," he said, voice rough, "I won't be able to keep my hands off you. Won't be able to pretend I don't want you with every breath in my body." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Then don't pretend." He kissed me then, and it was nothing like the desperate claiming in my apartment. This was slower, deeper, a thorough exploration that left me dizzy. His tongue traced the seam of my lips, and when I opened for him, the sound he made was pure satisfaction. We barely made it back to my room. The door had barely closed before his hands were on me, sliding beneath the robe, finding bare skin. I gasped against his mouth, my fingers working the buttons of his shirt, desperate to feel him. "Wait." He caught my hands, breathing hard. "Wait, Tesoro. You need to understand what this means. I don't care about—" "You should." He pressed my hands against his chest, and I felt his heart racing beneath my palms. "In my world, once you're mine, you're mine. There's no casual, no temporary. I don't share, I don't let go. If we do this, if I take you to that bed, you become part of my life in ways you can't imagine." The warning should have terrified me. Instead, it sent liquid heat through my veins. "Show me," I whispered. The last thread of his control snapped. He lifted me effortlessly, carrying me to the bed, laying me down on those expensive sheets like I was something precious. The robe fell open, and his gaze traveled over me with such intensity I felt branded by it. "Perfetta," he breathed. "So fucking perfect." His clothes disappeared quickly, revealing a body built for violence. All hard muscle and dangerous grace, marred by scars that told stories I didn't yet know. When he covered my body with his, the weight of him felt right. Inevitable. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against my throat, his teeth grazing my pulse. "Tell me this is too fast, too much. Give me a reason to be noble, Sarah, because I'm running out of them." I arched into him instead, my hands exploring the planes of his back, feeling the tension coiled there. "I don't want noble. I want you." He took me apart slowly, thoroughly, with hands and mouth and whispered words in Italian that I didn't understand but felt in my bones. When he finally entered me, filling me completely, we both went still, the moment stretching into something sacred. "Mine," he said against my lips, beginning to move. "Say it, Tesoro. Say you're mine." "Yours," I gasped, meeting his rhythm. "I'm yours." The words felt like a vow, binding and irrevocable, and as pleasure built between us, spiraling higher, I realized I meant them. Somehow, impossibly, in the space of one night, I'd given myself to a man I barely knew, a man who held my heart in hands stained with violence, a man who would burn the world to keep me safe. Later, wrapped in his arms as dawn began to paint the sky outside, I felt his phone buzz. He reached for it with obvious reluctance, his other arm tightening around me possessively. The message lit his face in harsh blue light, and I watched his expression harden into something terrifying. "What is it?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. "Leo knows you're here." He was already moving, pulling away from me despite my protests. "He sent a message, a warning." "What kind of warning?" Dante's jaw clenched. "Your brother, Sarah. When was the last time you spoke to him?" The question sent ice through my veins. 6 months ago. Maybe more. Why? What does Marcus have to do with everything? He turned back to me, and the fury in his eyes was magnificent and terrifying. Your brother works for Leo Marchetti. Has for 2 years. And the money he stole 3 months ago. The money that started this war between our families. He claims he did it to save you. The room tilted. That's impossible. Marcus wouldn't he? Dante pulled up a photo on his phone, and I saw my brother standing beside a man I didn't recognize, both of them smiling at some expensive restaurant. He told Leo you were sick, needed money for treatment, used you as an excuse to justify stealing from my shipments, from my warehouses. But I'm not sick. I haven't talked to him in... The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. He used me, as a lie, as cover for his own greed, Dante finished. And now Leo is threatening to expose Marcus's lies, to kill him publicly as retribution for the theft, unless what? His silence was answer enough. Unless I give you to him. Dante's voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands clenched into fists at his sides. That's his offer. Your life for your brother's debt. A trade. The words didn't make sense at first. My mind couldn't process the equation he was presenting. Me, worth enough to settle a debt that had sparked a war between Mafia families. Me, the invisible waitress who couldn't even afford new uniforms. Why would he want me? I whispered. I'm nobody. Because you're mine. The possessiveness in those 3 words was absolute. Because he knows that losing you would hurt me in ways that bullets and bombs never could. Because in our world, Sarah, taking what belongs to your enemy is the ultimate power play. I sat up, pulling the sheet around myself, suddenly feeling exposed. And Marcus? If you don't trade me, Leo kills him? Yes. No hesitation, no gentleness, just brutal honesty. He's my brother. My voice cracked. The only family I have left. Dante's expression didn't change. He's a liar and a thief who used your name to justify his betrayal, who put you in danger without a second thought, who's probably known for months that you could become collateral damage and didn't warn you, didn't protect you, didn't do anything except save his own skin. Every word was true. I knew it with bone-deep certainty. Marcus had always been selfish, always taken the easy way out. After our parents died, he'd disappeared, resurfacing only when he needed money or a place to crash. I'd given him both every time because he was blood, because I was alone, and he was all I had left. I can't let him die, I said. You don't have a choice. Dante moved to the window, his silhouette dark against the growing dawn. I'm not giving you to Leo. I'd burn this city to ash before I let another man touch you. The certainty in his voice should have thrilled me. Instead, it felt like a cage closing. So Marcus dies because I chose to help you that night? Because I opened my door? Marcus dies because he stole from me and lied to his boss. Dante turned back, his eyes hard. His death isn't on you, Tesoro. It's on him. But I could stop it. I stood, letting the sheet fall, watching his gaze darken with hunger, even in the midst of this nightmare. If I went to Leo voluntarily, No. The word cracked like a whip. He crossed the room in 3 strides, gripping my shoulders. Don't even think it. Don't even say it. You're mine, Sarah. Mine. And I protect what's mine with everything I have. Even if it means an innocent person dies? His laugh was bitter. There are no innocent people in my world. Your brother made his choices. Now he lives, or dies, with the consequences. I pulled away from him, my mind racing. Let me talk to him. To Marcus. Maybe if I understand what happened, why he what? Why he threw you to the wolves to cover his own ass. Dante's control was fracturing, rage bleeding through. There's no explanation that makes this acceptable, no justification that... His phone rang, cutting off the argument. He glanced at the screen, and something in his expression shifted. It's Leo. He answered, switching to speaker. Marchetti. Caruso. The voice that emerged was smooth, cultured, with an accent that spoke of old money and older violence. I trust you received my message. I did. And your answer? Dante's eyes never left mine. Go fuck yourself. A low chuckle. I expected as much. You always were sentimental about your toys. Very well. The brother dies at noon today. Publicly. Messily. And then I come for the girl anyway, because you've shown me exactly how valuable she is. You come near her, And You'll what? Start a war? Leo's amusement was evident. We're already at war, Dante. Your father would be ashamed at how soft you've become. All this for a waitress? A nobody? She must be extraordinary in bed. I watched Dante's free hand clench, his knuckles white. Careful, Leo. Or what? You'll kill me? You've been trying for months. A pause. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to kill Marcus Fletcher at noon in front of witnesses. Then I'm going to take everything you love, your businesses, your territory, your reputation. And eventually, I'll take her too. Maybe I'll keep her alive for a while. Let her see what happens to women who choose the wrong man to protect them. I'll see you dead first. You can try. The line went dead. Dante stood frozen for a moment, the phone still in his hand. Then, with deliberate calm, he set it down on the dresser and turned to me. Get dressed, he said quietly. We're going out. Where? To save your worthless brother's life. He pulled on his clothes with efficient movements. Because apparently, I'm the kind of fool who'll start a war to keep you happy. Hope flared in my chest. You'll trade for him? Negotiate? No. He fastened his shirt, his expression grim. I'm going to take him. By force, before Leo can execute him. That's suicide. You said Leo has men everywhere. That he's been planning this. I don't care. He cupped my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. You want your brother alive? I'll bring him back alive. But understand this, Sarah. I'm not doing this for him. I'm doing this for you. Because your pain is my pain now. And I'd rather face 100 of Leo's men than see you hurt. Tears spilled down my cheeks. You can't. It's too dangerous. I won't let you. You don't get a vote. He kissed me, hard and fast. You're mine to protect, even from yourself. Now get dressed. You're staying here with Marco under Rosa and Antonio's protection. There are 20 armed men stationed around this property. Don't leave the house. Don't open doors. Don't trust anyone except the people I've assigned to you. Come with me, he said, pulling me toward the door. We hurried down the hall to Marco's room. The little boy was awake now, eating breakfast at a small table while his nanny read to him. When he saw me, his face lit up. The nice lady! He scrambled from his chair, running to hug my legs. Papa said you're staying with us now. I looked at Dante, questions in my eyes, but he was already kneeling beside his son. Marco, I need to go take care of something. You're going to stay here with Sarah and Rosa. Can you be brave for me? The boy's expression grew serious, far too serious for a child his age. Is it dangerous, Papa? A little. Dante pulled him close. But I'll come back. I always come back to you. Promise? Promise. He kissed Marco's forehead, and I saw the love there, fierce and absolute. Then he stood, his gaze finding mine. Take care of him, please. I will. The words felt like a vow. He left without looking back, and I heard his footsteps echo down the hallway, heard the front door open and close, heard vehicles starting in the driveway. Marco tugged my hand. Don't be sad. Papa always comes back. I knelt beside him, forcing a smile. I know, sweetheart. But I didn't know. Not really. All I knew was that Dante Caruso, Mafia boss, killer, the most dangerous man I'd ever met, was risking his life for my brother. A brother who'd betrayed me, lied about me, put me in mortal danger, and he was doing it because he couldn't bear to see me hurt. Rosa appeared in the doorway, her expression grave. Miss Fletcher, perhaps you and Marco would like to bake cookies. It helps pass the time when the dawn is working. I understood what she wasn't saying. This wasn't the first time she'd waited for Dante to return from violence, wouldn't be the last. Cookies sound perfect, I managed. The morning passed in a surreal haze. Marco and I measured flour and sugar, his small hands messy with dough, his laughter a bright spot in the gathering darkness of my thoughts. He told me about his school, his friends, his favorite cartoons. Normal things. Things that seemed impossible in a house filled with armed guards, and the constant awareness of danger. Rosa's phone rang just before 11. She answered, listened, her face draining of color. Then she looked at me, They've engaged Leo's men. There's been complications. My heart stopped. Is Dante alive, but trapped? They have your brother, but Leo sent more men than anticipated. They're pinned down in a warehouse near the docks. Her hands twisted in her apron. Antonio is asking permission to send reinforcements, but that would leave the house vulnerable. Send them, I said immediately. Miss Fletcher, if we weaken security here and Leo attacks, send them. I was already moving toward the door. I'm not letting Dante die because he tried to save someone for me. You can't go there, Rosa protested. The Dawn isn't here. I grabbed my jacket from where it hung by the door. And I'm not asking permission. Antonio materialized in the hallway, his expression thunderous. Absolutely not. You're staying here where I'm safe? Where I'm protected? I laughed, the sound brittle. He's dying for me, Antonio. For my worthless brother. The least I can do is stay alive, so his sacrifice means something, Antonio interrupted. Miss Fletcher, please. If you go there, you become the target. You give Leo exactly what he wants. Then we make it a trap. The idea formed as I spoke. Leo wants me? Fine, let him think he can have me. Draw his men away from the warehouse. Give Dante a chance to escape with Marcus. Rosa shook her head violently. Too dangerous. The Dawn would never. The Dawn is about to die, the words ripped from my throat. Do you understand? He's going to die trying to save a man I don't even like because he loves me enough to give me what I want even when it's stupid. Tears streamed down my face. I won't let that happen. I won't. Antonio studied me for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. If we do this, we do it my way. You stay in the car, bulletproof glass, surrounded by my best men. You don't get out for any reason. Understood? Understood. And if the Dawn survives this, Antonio added grimly, he's probably going to kill me himself. Get in line, I muttered. The warehouse district looked like something from a nightmare. Abandoned buildings with shattered windows, rusted shipping containers stacked like a child's blocks, and the acrid smell of burning oil thick in the air. Antonio's SUV rolled to a stop 3 blocks from the warehouse where Dante was trapped, and I could already hear the gunfire, sharp cracks that made my whole body flinch with each report. Stay in the vehicle, Antonio commanded, his hand already on his weapon. 2 men stay with you at all times. Windows stay up, doors stay locked. If I radio the code word Nightingale, you drive away immediately. Don't wait for me, don't wait for anyone. Just go. What about Dante? His expression softened fractionally. The Dawn has survived worse. He'll survive this too. But I heard the doubt beneath the certainty. I watched through the tinted windows as Antonio and 6 other men disappeared into the maze of containers and debris. The 2 guards remaining with me, silent, muscular men whose names I didn't know, positioned themselves on either side of the SUV, weapons drawn, eyes scanning constantly. My phone, the new untraceable one Antonio had given me that morning, buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. My hands shook as I answered. Sarah. Dante's voice, rough and breathless. What the fuck are you doing here? How did you... I have eyes everywhere, even when I'm pinned down by a dozen of Leo's men. A burst of gunfire punctuated his words. Antonio just radioed that you insisted on coming. Are you insane? Probably. I pressed my hand against the window, as if I could reach through the glass and distance to touch him. I couldn't just sit there while I what? While I kept my promise to you? His laugh was harsh. This is what I do, Tesoro. This is who I am. Violence and blood and impossible situations are my normal. Not for me. Not because of me. A pause, filled with the distant sound of shouting and more gunfire. Then, quieter. Everything I do now is for you. Don't you understand that yet? Before I could respond, I saw movement in my peripheral vision. A black sedan, approaching too fast, windows down. I saw the barrels of guns emerging and screamed a warning, but it was too late. The SUV rocked as bullets slammed into the armored sides. My guards returned fire, their weapons deafening even through the reinforced glass. The sedan swerved, 2 of its tires blown out by the barrage, but more vehicles were appearing, 3, 4, 5 of them, all converging on our position. "Sarah!" Dante's voice crackled through the phone. "Sarah, answer me." "I'm okay. The glass is holding." My voice sounded remarkably calm, considering my heart was trying to beat out of my chest. "But there are more cars coming. So many cars." I heard him curse in Italian, heard him shouting orders to someone. "I'm coming to you." "Hold on. Just hold." "No." I watched as one of my guards went down, clutching his shoulder. "You can't leave Marcus. That's what Leo wants. He wants you exposed, wants you to choose between us. There's no choice." The certainty in his voice was absolute. "There was never a choice. Marcus can rot for all I care. Dante, please. I love you." The words stopped my breath. I know it's too soon. I know it's impossible. But I love you, Sarah Fletcher. I've loved you since I saw you drop that bag 3 weeks ago and apologize to the sidewalk for making a mess. I've loved you through every moment of watching you, wanting you, lying to get close to you. And I'll be damned if I let Leo Marchetti take you from me now. Tears blurred my vision. You can't love me. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're kind when the world has given you every reason to be hard. I know you work yourself to exhaustion and still smile. I know you opened your door to a stranger in a storm. I know you're sitting in a bulletproof SUV under fire right now because you couldn't bear the thought of me getting hurt. His voice dropped to something raw, vulnerable. I know you're the first thing that's felt real to me in years, maybe ever. I love you too, I whispered, the admission torn from somewhere deep inside. God help me, I do. Then trust me. Trust that I'll get to you. Trust that we'll survive this. The sedan that had been disabled suddenly exploded, a fireball that lit up the gray morning. I screamed, dropping the phone, watching in horror as flames engulfed the vehicle. My remaining guard was shouting into his radio, his face grim. Then I saw him. Dante, emerging from behind a shipping container like an avenging angel. His suit jacket discarded, his white shirt splattered with blood, whether his or someone else's, I couldn't tell. He moved with lethal grace, his weapon an extension of his arm, dropping 2 of Leo's men before they even registered his presence. Behind him, Antonio dragged someone, Marcus. My brother looked worse for wear, his face bruised, his expensive suit torn, but he was alive. Drive toward them, I commanded the driver. Now, Miss Fletcher, my orders. Your orders are to protect me. The best protection is getting your boss and getting out of here. I leaned forward, my voice hard. Drive, now. He obeyed, the SUV lurching forward. We closed the distance in seconds, bullets pinging off the armored exterior like deadly rain. The rear door swung open, and Antonio shoved Marcus inside before diving in himself. Dante followed, slamming the door behind him, and suddenly the vehicle felt too small, too full of tension and violence and barely controlled chaos. Go, Dante ordered, and the driver floored it. I couldn't stop staring at him. Blood streaked his face, a cut above his eyebrow dripping steadily. His hands, those beautiful, deadly hands, were scraped and bruised, but he was alive. He was here. You're insane, he said, his voice rough. Come in here, risking yourself. I launched myself at him, cutting off his words with a kiss that tasted like copper and smoke and desperate relief. He caught me, pulling me into his lap, his arms banding around me like he'd never let go. Don't ever do that again, he murmured against my lips. Don't give me a reason to. Behind us, Marcus made a sound, half laugh, half sob. I pulled away from Dante reluctantly, turning to face my brother for the first time in 6 months. He looked terrible, older than I remembered, harder. His eyes, the same green as our mother's, were shadowed with things I didn't want to understand. Sarah, he rasped. I'm sorry, I'm so fucking sorry. You should be. Dante's voice was ice. You used her. Lied about her. Put her in the crosshairs of a war she had nothing to do with. I know. Marcus's hands trembled. I needed the money. Leo's men. They said if I could get into your warehouses, if I could steal enough product, I'd be set for life. I didn't think. You never do. I was surprised by how cold my own voice sounded. Did you even consider what might happen to me when they found out you'd lied? When they realized I wasn't sick? That you'd made it all up? I thought I'd be gone by then. Thought I'd have enough money to disappear. Maybe take you with me. Bullshit. Dante leaned forward, and even injured and exhausted, he radiated danger. You thought about yourself. Period. Your sister, the woman who gave you everything even when she had nothing, was just a convenient excuse. Marcus flinched, but didn't deny it. What happens now? Now? Dante's smile was razor sharp. Now you work for me. You pay off your debt with years of service. You do exactly what I tell you. When I tell you, no questions asked. And if you ever put Sarah in danger again, I'll kill you myself. Slowly. Dante. I started to protest, but he silenced me with a look. This is mercy to Sorrow, more than he deserves. The alternative is, I hand him back to Leo and let nature take its course. Marcus went pale. I'll do it. Whatever you want. I'll do it. Good. Dante pulled out his phone, barking orders in Italian. Within minutes, we'd arrived at a different property. Not the mansion from earlier, but a fortified compound with walls topped with razor wire and guards at every entrance. Safe house, Dante explained as we were hustled inside. Leo knows about the estate now. We'll stay here until I can eliminate the threat permanently. The building's interior was utilitarian. Concrete walls, minimal furniture, everything designed for function over comfort, but it was secure. And right now, that was all that mattered. Medical personnel appeared immediately, converging on Dante. He waved them off irritably. I'm fine. Check Marcus first, then Sarah. I'm not hurt, I protested. You were under fire. You're getting checked. His tone brooked no argument. While a doctor examined me, pronouncing me bruised but unharmed, I watched Dante pace the room like a caged predator, phone pressed to his ear, issuing commands in rapid Italian. He was coordinating something, I realized. Something big. When he finally ended the call, his expression was grim. Leo crossed a line today, he said, addressing the room. He brought civilians into this war, targeted someone under my protection. That ends now. What are you planning? Antonio asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. I'm calling a meeting. All the families. We're going to settle this the old way. Dante's eyes found mine across the room. And when it's done, Leo Marchetti will never threaten what's mine again. The meeting took place 3 days later in a neutral location, an old social club in Little Italy that had hosted such gatherings for generations. Dante explained the rules: no weapons inside, neutral mediators from the other families, strict protocols that had governed Mafia disputes for over a century. I wasn't allowed to attend. Instead, I waited at the safe house with Marco, Rosa, and enough guards to repel a small army. The hours crawled by, each minute an eternity. When Dante finally returned, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire. He looked exhausted, but unharmed, and the relief that flooded through me was almost painful. It's done, he said simply. Leo has agreed to a truce. Your brother's debt is forgiven in exchange for him working directly for me. The families have recognized you as under my protection, officially, permanently. Anyone who touches you answers to all of us, not just me. What did it cost you? I asked, because I knew how these things worked. Nothing came free in his world. Territory, money, concessions I'll spend years rebuilding. He cupped my face, his thumbs brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. Worth every penny, every inch of ground. You're safe now, Sarah. Truly safe. And us? The question was barely a whisper. Us? He smiled, and it transformed his face, chasing away the shadows. We're just beginning. 6 months later, I stood in the garden of Dante's estate, our estate now, watching Marco chase butterflies through the roses. My engagement ring caught the sunlight, throwing rainbows across the grass. The wedding was planned for next month. Small, intimate, just family and close associates. Dante had offered me something lavish, but I'd refused. I didn't need spectacle. I just needed him. My job at the diner was a distant memory. Now I managed Dante's charitable foundations, legitimate businesses that actually helped people. It turned out my talent for seeing the invisible extended beyond myself. I found the people who slipped through society's cracks and gave them the help they needed. Marcus worked in one of Dante's legitimate shipping companies, slowly earning back trust and paying off his debt. We'd never be as close as siblings should be, but we were learning to coexist. To forgive, if not forget. Strong arms wrapped around me from behind, and I leaned back into Dante's embrace. "Happy?" he murmured against my hair. Impossibly. I turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd orchestrated our meeting, who'd lied and manipulated and risked everything for a chance at this. "You know, I still can't believe you went through all that trouble just to meet me. I'd do it again." His lips brushed mine, gentle and sure. "I'd do worse. You know that." I know. And I did. I understood now what it meant to be loved by Dante Caruso. It was fierce and possessive, and sometimes frightening in its intensity. But it was also steady, protective, absolute. He would burn the world for me. And somehow, impossibly, I'd learned to let him. Marco ran up to us, clutching a butterfly that had landed on his hand. "Look, Sarah. Look, Papa." We admired his catch, watching as he gently released it back to the sky. As it flew away, Dante pulled us both close, his family. The things he'd kill to protect. I thought about that night 6 months ago, when I'd opened my door to a stranger in a storm. How that single choice had led to this. To love, to danger, to a life I never could have imagined. I wouldn't change a single moment. Not the fear, not the violence, not even the lies. Because all of it had led me here, to this garden, to this man, to this impossible, beautiful, dangerous life, to home.